Deadpool 2.
You saw it twice.
I've seen it twice. So nice. I had to see it twice. I saw it on Memorial Day night. It was definitely a way for me. I had so much fun. And so today, Tyson and I went and saw it together again. And Josh had to miss. He was busy with some work stuff. But he knows about X-Men. He knows about X-Men, so he's gonna stay for the conversation. But
we're gonna spoil the entire movie. This is gonna be spoiler full.
This is spoiler full.
But it's been out for 2 weeks, so you should have seen it by now.
You should have seen it by now. If you were gonna see it, you probably would have seen it. Yeah. So let's get into it. Overall, I really love this movie. I really enjoyed it. I saw it twice. I think I was really surprised with how much I liked it. I was worried because the original director, Tim Miller, was not coming back on. And I really liked Tim Miller's directing the first time around. So I was like kind of worried about this film, but it turned out great anyways. I was worried about it too because,
when that news came out, I was like, oh no, it's not going to work out.
Yeah. And then Cable, I saw the pictures of Josh Brolin as Cable and I was not impressed. And I was like, he's not big enough and he needs fucking shoulder pads and fuck this. I'm being pissy about it.
Well, we were both a little skeptical. We were a little worried that they were going to start going in the Bryan Singer direction of design versus what they were doing with Deadpool. Because one of the reasons the first movie was so good is they did Colossus and they did Deadpool and they made him look just like in the comics. Mm-hmm. And it felt like they slipped under the radar of Fox to be able to do that.
Right.
So we were afraid that they were going to backpedal this time around. But it turned out, no, they did.
No, it was fantastic.
Cable actually was really effective in full action.
I was born into war, bred into it. People think they understand pain, but they have no concept of it.
He was so good. In fact, I'm not a Josh Brolin girl who's like, ooh, Josh Brolin, what a hunk. He's not somebody that I ever look twice at. But in this movie, for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, what's up, Josh Brolin? And not only Josh Brolin, Cable, because I'm not a big Cable person either, because Cable to me is always a downer, because he is from a downer future, and then he comes back and he's always trying to kill someone, and bumming everybody out, and he's just like, he's Scott Summers' son, and he's just even less fun than Scott, you know what I'm saying? Has less of a sense of humor than Scott Summers does, is less lighthearted than him. And so I've never been a huge Cable person because every time he shows up, it's always depressing and it's always just like, Cable future, everything sucks, we gotta kill this person. And you're just like, fuck, dude, chill out. But in this movie, I was like, dude, Cable's fucking awesome. And I really loved Josh Brolin's Cable, and it made me not only like Josh Brolin more, but like Cable as a character more.
I think they captured that future essence from the comics, but made it fun. When he shows me, I'm Cable. Yeah. I'm from the future.
Yeah.
You just laugh and you just smile when you hear him say it like that.
And I loved his gun, his future tech.
Oh, yeah.
Was so cool. The way that, and all the noises they did for him, the way they did his left side with the cybernetic techno-virus stuff, looked really fucking good. I was really impressed when he had his shirt off. And by the way, good for Brolin. He's an older dude. I'm sure he's on the HGH or whatever the fuck, but he looked great. I was like, well,
that's
job,
the challenge
bro.
Of casting a Cable character is you've got to find someone that's in their 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
Well, if you're trying to go
70s,
that way.
Come on.
In the comics, he's pretty old.
He's not 70. Fuck.
Well, 50s or 60s, how about?
I don't know.
But that's a hard person to cast and have someone that's pumped, because also in the comics, he's 8 feet tall.
He's huge in the comics. Yeah. He's so big.
And they make an excuse in the movie. They make a joke out of that. He's not as tall as he is in the comics.
He's 5'11". He's not he's big in the comics, And I was like, okay, that totally forgave it. When they made a self-aware joke that he's totally 5'11" and not as big as he is in the comics, I was like, okay, I forgive this. Although I still think that they could have done shoulder pads. I still feel I love the half cape that they did, but I still think the shoulder pads would have built him up a little bit, and I think that would have been.
Shoulder pads get a bad rap.
They do. I love shoulder pads. I think they're really cool, but people think they're kind of lame and not.
Well, that's just because that's what people say.
Yeah.
Well, if you did all that stuff that they have in the comics, all those bullets and shoulder pads, he wouldn't be able to move. And the movie in real life, I realized when watching this that it requires moving around, and all that stuff may have weighed you down too much to be able to do the stunts.
Well, and I feel like Josh Brolin was actually having a lot of fun with the role too, and that's something that Josh Brolin as a celebrity and as like a, you know, as an actor, you know, I'm not really a big fan of him either. He kind of seems a little douchey. But
really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything.
But in this, I was like, oh wow, like it makes him look like he does have a sense of humor and he's not as douchey. And he seemed like the actor was having a lot of fun in this role, which made me have a lot of fun because it's like, oh,
I think everyone was having fun.
Oh yeah, everybody was having a good time.
You're no fucking hero. You're just a clown. Dressed up as a sex toy.
So dark. You sure you're not from the DC universe?
And also his haircut. His hair looks so fucking good. Like that silver that they did, and they did these streaks, and it was like that high and tight thing. It looks so good. One of my favorite lines is like Cable and Deadpool are fighting. And Cable's like, I'm from the future. And Deadpool's like, I've got 3 questions. One of them is dubstep still around. two is like some other bullshit, you know, it's just some other bullshit joke stuff. And then like Cable like says to Deadpool, he says to Deadpool, dubstep is for pussies, and then punches him in the head really hard. And it was just like so great. Like, I just thought it was so funny. I was really impressed and got such a laugh out of that. And then they start fighting to dubstep, and it was so cool.
They brought dubstep in again in the end.
Yeah. It was really fun. But I loved him being, and I love them like they team up later, and so they're in the car together, and Cable's just hanging out in the fucking car, you know, with these fucking assholes.
That was my favorite scene. One of my favorite scenes was just them in the car being able to just talk casually because they've been fighting the whole time.
Right.
And finally they get to just like
just be in a car driving somewhere, you know, like, and Cable just sitting in a car driving somewhere is really funny because it's such a mundane thing. You don't think of him ever doing anything mundane. And like him and Deadpool were talking, and then Cable says something to him about like how like, I got news for you, pal. Like in 50 years you're dead. You're not a hero. You're just some fucking clown who dresses up like a fucking sex doll, you know? And then he like stops, and then he like kind of smiles, like he just like how do you like that, you know? Like just calls him a fucking clown that dresses like a sex toy, and then laughs at kind of smirks at his own joke. And I thought that was really cute.
He smiled. Just because you don't expect Cable to ever smile.
Right, and then he smiles a little bit at it.
Ooh! Yeah! Your bullets. They're really fast.
And then there's like, Deadpool's like, what's up with this fucking nightmare teddy bear you have? And it's just like, or hobo bear or something. And he's just like, it's not trash. It's covered in the blood of my dead daughter. You know, it's just like, god damn, Cable, like he's so fucking.
That was a funny line. And then the way they cut from that scene to actually like one of the 2 sentimental, touching, emotional scenes.
Yeah.
Let's get into the plot here. So I was wondering what they were going to do with Deadpool's girlfriend.
Yes.
Because in the last movie, you know, that was a big part.
Yeah. And they get back together, and you're like, oh, okay,
right.
So they're going to get back together. Like, all right, so where's this going to go?
And then right from the beginning of this movie, there's a tragic scene, which is actually really emotional. Like
they play it straight.
Yeah, they play it straight, and she gets killed by an assassin that Deadpool failed to kill in his last mission.
Yeah.
Breaks into their home and accidentally shoots her because Wade misses with his butter knife.
Right, his cream cheese spreader knife.
Yeah.
And so she's killed, but then they start the credits, which is like this like 007 credits.
So she dies in the opening.
She dies in the opening. But then they're like presented by, what the fuck? Did you actually just kill her? And then like
I actually didn't like those jokes because I was really buying the emotionality of the girlfriend dying, so I didn't need those extra joke layers there.
Things that are, it's difficult, like tonally, to kind of balance those kinds of things when you do that. It's hard to have any kind of scene like that in anything and then do any kind of humor after it.
Yeah.
It made me feel like maybe they didn't think that they were as effective as they were.
You know, they always kill the person's girlfriend, you know, like that's what the wife and the girlfriend is there for, is to be killed so that the main character has some big reason. Yeah, or the mom. Some woman is killed in the hero's life, so now he's got to go on a rampage to get revenge. But they didn't really go in a revenge way, which was cool. Like, they didn't end up doing that. Deadpool tries to kill himself instead, but he's unkillable. And then Colossus comes in and gets his body and puts it back together and takes him back to the X Mansion to recuperate. So he's back at the X Mansion, and Colossus is like, hey, I know you've been through some shit, but you should become an X-Man. We're your friends. We're here to help you. Of course, Deadpool's being a dickhead about it, and then they end up like fighting about it until he agrees to come on as a trainee, and they go on a mission together. And their first mission is there's a mutant incident happening, and this is the thing that really reminds me of X-Men, where it's like, oh, this is what happens in the fucking comic books. You have a teenage adolescent, this New Zealand boy who's like this little chunky New Zealand boy. He's really cute, and he has like really hot hands, and he can make fire happen, and he's got he's called
Fire Fist.
Fire Fist or something. And he's freaking out, and he is busted out of the Essex house, which in the comic books is where Mr. Sinister has his orphanages, where he takes in mutant kids and experiments on them. But they didn't really go with that. They just went with it's a kind of like a Christian fundamentalist, not Christian, but it's like this fuck mutant, human fundamentalist thing where they torture these kids thing. But anyways, so there's this kid, he's being a problem. Nobody knows why he's being a problem. Deadpool shows up with Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and he proceeds to try to defuse the situation. He does. The kid ends up telling him, though, that don't let me go with these guys. Don't let me go back with these guys because they're torturing and abusing me, And so Deadpool's like, well, fuck this. And so he immediately starts to kill the people at the Essex house and starts shooting at them. And then Colossus is like, what are you doing? You can't shoot these people. That's not how the X-Men do things. And so now the kid and Deadpool get power dampening collars put on them, and they're taken away to a mutant prison, the Icebox. And so instead of going back to the Essex house, the kid and Deadpool go to this prison. And so the kid is now he's like, okay, we're going to be pals. We're going to be together. We're going to kick so much ass. Deadpool is like, look, I'm going to die of cancer without my powers. I'm just fucking cancer. So you need to fuck off and get away from me. And is trying to kind of get the kid to go away. And then Cable comes back from the future, and
he's on a mission to
kill the kid. And at first Wade thinks he's trying to kill him, but then he's like, oh, it's the kid. Why are you trying to kill the kid?
Why are you trying to kill this kid?
Yeah. And so they start fighting. It's a whole thing. The kid stays at the prison though, and then Cable and Deadpool like fly out the side of the building. Like,
so they also set up that Juggernaut is in this movie. Prison's like shaking, big rumble, and Deadpool makes a joke about foreshadowing something that's coming in the end.
Making a meta-aware joke about, and
it ends up being Juggernaut, the other major
Juggernaut
character.
shows up,
What I love about the series is they actually seem to like sneakily get the rights to a couple of characters like Colossus or Juggernaut and then do them right in the way that the X-Men franchise has never done before. We were being curious about that one scene when he's in the X-Mansion and he makes a joke about the X-Men never being in the mansion, and then they show this shot which didn't work for us.
Yeah.
Where they show like all the X-Men are back there and they just shut a door.
They shut like Beast and Professor X and Storm and
the whole team.
The whole new
Cyclops
team was in there. That's short as fuck, and who cares?
It felt like a mandate from the studio to do that shot.
It felt like a fuck you, get these assholes out of here.
Colossus and Deadpool are done so right, and then you see the other team and you're like, it's just a disconnect sort of thing.
For me, I'm like...
So it wasn't like a gag, like shutting the door on.
No, it was a joke. It was a joke.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we don't want to talk to this
The joke was, why
guy.
are the X-Men never in the X-Mansion? And then they show them like they're there, and then they just shut a door.
Quietly, like, we don't want to talk to this guy.
Like they're having a meeting or something.
How did they look?
I mean,
they look just like the last X-Men movie, or like the one coming up.
Oh, so
Dark
they didn't
Phoenix.
make them look in a... They looked like...
They look like Singleverse crap. One thing I really liked in Deadpool was all the physical, like, crazy gags they did with, like, his body, because he can take so much damage. And so they're constantly doing these jokes about, like, him and his body, like, being blown apart and, like...
The Cable fight
was so good in the prison. Where he chokes out, like, Cable, like, breaks his fucking arm.
Cable's
like,
breaking everyone's arms that he fights in this. He's, like, breaking arms left and right.
Yeah, he's a lot of arm breaking. And then... Deadpool flips on him and like traps him with his own like
broken
fucking arm, and it's just
which is just like a noodle.
Yeah, it's just like all fucking bent, like all wrong, you know. And like there was another scene where like something explodes and they fly off the top, and like Deadpool lands like on a table, and it's like his just back is broken, and it just looks so wrong.
Right.
And then when they fly out the side of the building, like he goes into this water and comes back out, but like his head is smashed where he hit a rock on the way down, so like his brain is showing and shit, and it's just like so like it's like, oh god, he looks so awful.
Did the violence in the movie get to you? Did you ever feel like a little bit like, oh?
Well, I mean, that brain thing where his brain brain was like his exposed, and then he was like shivering and like cold because he just like came out of this icy water. But like there's 3 times where he almost dies and he sees his girlfriend, and his girlfriend gives him like a little, says something to him that's like a puzzle, you know. And so he does kind of almost die a couple times, and I like the way they did that and showed like him like going to the other side and like talking to her a little bit.
I'm impressed by the movie making the entire thing not a joke.
Yeah,
like it actually has.
There was really serious moments that they played super straight, and it was like really heartfelt, and it was really touching. Which I was like, they did a great job of balancing actually being touching with being silly as fuck, and people getting their arms cut off, and people really getting their heads smashed. It is really hard, and it's
like a lot of times that's like what comics have to do, and like what these kind of stories have to do is they have to do both. You know what I mean? They have to be like a drama, you know what I mean, where they kind of go through all the, you know, the life and death and birth stuff, and then they also have to have the humor, and it's hard. It's because it's usually you do either one or the other. You can't tell a story about life and death, and I mean you can work humor into that, but I mean comics are like hyperbole, so it's hard to rubber bath between one extreme and the next. You know what I mean? They don't exist like in the middle. They exist at extremes.
They do definitely exist at extremes.
So it's like when they do one, they have to do the other. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to kind of... So tonally, hearing you talk about it, it's hard to understand how it works, but... You know what I mean? Because it almost never does,
But it does, and and there's so much joy in it. I feel like the people who made it were really just having so much fun, and like they really knew what they were doing. And to be able to hear casual fucks on screen and bad guys getting their heads chopped
said
off.
Fuck. That was great.
Yeah, that was really funny.
And they did a good job with Colossus' character, because from the comics you know that he's like so good-hearted.
He's so pure-hearted. Yeah. Peter is so good, and he's such a sweetheart, and he's such a gentle giant, and like they really capture how sweet he is and how he's like believes in the rules, and like he believes in family. And there's at one point where Deadpool's being a dick and he pins him up and he's like, you know, friends are here, like I'm being your friend right now, and like friends are here when things are like tough, you know, and like I get that your girl died or whatever, but you know, like I'm here to like help you like no matter what. And then he says something to him about his heart, you know, it's like you should something about his heart. And then Deadpool, hearing his girlfriend had said something to him about his heart when he was dead for a second. And so he's like, what did you say? And so then he agrees, you know, like Colossus does convince him to try being an X-Man for a minute, you know, like he genuinely does. And he hugs him and he like has a moment with him, and then he grabs his, you know, Colossus's butt, which is funny. But they have a weird, like, it's like Deadpool has a crush on Colossus a little bit, you know, and there's
it's almost like Colossus is the good angel on his shoulder.
He is the good angel on his shoulder, and I love how he's represented, and it's so Colossus. It's very...
The only thing that I wish they had done, and they had opportunity for this, when Deadpool pulled up to the mansion to try to get Colossus to come out and help him with the final battle, and Colossus was in there, and he's just on the bed doing something, I was like, that was an opportunity to have him drawing.
Oh yeah, but they were doing a riff off Say Anything, that movie where it's like Deadpool's outside and he's got the song playing and you know he's in there, but
he could have been drawing while listening to that.
But I liked that when Colossus does show up, Colossus ends up showing up for the final battle, and he has to fight Juggernaut, of course. And
does Juggernaut look good?
Juggernaut looks great.
He looked great, except for...
Especially because in X-Men 3, back in 2006...
That might have been the last superhero movie that I saw.
Yeah.
When I was just like, I'm over this.
Well, that was a real bad one.
That was one of the all-time worst.
I just, at that point, that was when I was like, I can't take anymore.
Right. So in X-Men 3, they made Juggernaut he was like a professional wrestler character or something, and they just didn't go there at all.
No,
didn't
even try. It was bad. They had Bullet Tooth Tony doing it.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, I wish I could have seen Juggernaut in his actual costume, because like they had him in like a prisoner. They had the helmet.
Yeah.
He had the helmet, but he had a prisoner garb on.
But they didn't do the red full costume, which
I mean, it's just like it's so cool. Like
Juggernaut
is such
is
a good
really
design.
Awesome character.
Yeah, he's got a really cool costume.
But everything
design.
else they did with his size and his presence.
Yeah.
He walks up to Deadpool, and Deadpool's like, "Oh my gosh, you're Juggernaut!
That's
like I'm such a fan!"
Like
and he rips Deadpool apart.
He's like, "I'm gonna rip you in half now," and he's like, "That's such a Juggernaut thing to say," and then just like,
Time to get back on LinkedIn. Meet Bedlam.
My name's Shutterstock.
Domino. I'm lucky.
Luck isn't a superpower.
Let's talk about X-Force for a second. So Deadpool, he comes back and he realizes because his girlfriend said something to him while he was dead about how he has got to protect this kid. So he's like, oh, my new mission is I got to protect this kid from this guy Cable. I got to find him. So he puts together a team of people, of randos.
Yeah, he has an audition, and he just pulls in new characters. It was just a really fun scene to have all these people come in and be like, this is my power. I can do this.
Yeah.
And it's just like a normal job interview.
And there's one normal guy with a mustache who doesn't have any powers. Right. And then but Domino is in there, Domino is a Liefeld character. Yeah. So Shatterstar is also a Liefeld character. So Shatterstar shows up.
Terry Crews, who is just a generic I don't know if he's a real character.
He might be a real character. I'm not sure.
Well, usually what they do is it's like, this is an offshoot character, and then they just change it completely. But his power was electrical interference, like... He goes like this, and then like everything in the room.
And he can make he can fuck up your brain a little bit too.
And they all get like real bad headaches.
He can give you a headache and make you
Which
feel
I thought
weird.
Was cool. I thought they were setting up a character that was going to go somewhere.
Right, but then on their first mission, they go out and there's some high winds, and Deadpool does not take the high wind advisory seriously, and so they're all flying in, parachuting, and the high winds fuck everything up, and all of them die. All of the X-Force die except for Deadpool and Domino.
Which was really funny to set up the wind advisory.
And they all die in gruesome ways.
You thought it was just a joke, and then it ended up actually killing all of them.
Yeah, Terry Crews gets hit by a bus when he's trying to land.
Shatterstar's death. I was really sad about Shatterstar. I wanted him in the movie.
I know. I so wanted more Shatterstar.
I wanted to see his double-sided sword slice some people.
I know. And the thing was when he was ready to go, they had Shatterstar's head thing, that dumb head thing that he wears. And he was wearing the white outfit with the puffy sleeves, it had the puffy sleeves and shit, and he had the long fucking ponytail and the red hair, and I was like, oh my god, I was so excited. But then he parachutes into a helicopter and turns into green slime.
What was hilarious is that his long ponytail flew in his face and he couldn't see.
And he got
so they made a joke about everyone having ponytails.
But he does say that he's from Mojo World. So they did say the word Mojo.
He's like, hi, I'm Shatterstar. I'm from the Mojoverse.
He said Mojoverse World or something.
God, get that character in a movie.
I know, right?
Yeah, what kind of
Mojo and Spiral, I would fucking die.
But
please,
come
someone
on,
cast me
as
as
far
Spiral.
as villains, Jesus.
So good. And so relevant to right now, with just the evil media, fucked up weird shit, manipulative stuff that Mojo represents.
Maybe when Marvel gets the X-Men, they'll go to Mojoverse at some point. We're getting off subject. We were talking about Deadpool.
Okay, so Domino. Let's talk about Domino for a second. Okay, so I loved Zazie Beetz as Domino. I think that I really loved her character in the movie. I thought the way they presented her powers was really cool. She was really cool. She kicked a lot of fucking ass. Domino has always kicked so much ass.
And we were skeptical about Domino because they changed her.
Yes, yeah, and the thing is okay, I think that the way they designed her.
Who played Domino?
Zazie Beetz.
Not Margot Robbie.
No. And that's the thing is okay, as much as what they did with her design was very clever with the vitiligo eye, that's an interesting way to take that if you want to put it in a more realistic lens. But the thing is, for me, I love Domino because I just loved her character design from the comic books, where she's not pale, she's white, and she has a black fucking spot over her eye, and she looks cool as fuck, and she looks like goth. She's super goth looking, and obviously I'm kind of into that goth thing a little bit. And so I think there's a lot less, and the thing is okay, so we're gonna take Domino and we're gonna turn her into a black girl, and it's okay, but honestly there's a lot less goth representation out there than there is for people of color. And I was a little disappointed when I was no, I wanted to see a goth fucking character with white ass fuck, because she looks so fucking cool. And I was bummed that I didn't get to see that character because I think she looks so fucking awesome. Yeah. But the character in the movie was still amazing. She did a great job. I really loved her character. I love the way she played it. I love the way she acted it. I like the way that
her self-expression and the way she held herself.
Oh, it was great. And but one thing that they did keep about the character was her titties. She had a little vest on, and her shit was really smushed up, and she was running everywhere, and they were
Can you do that again to get more subscribers?
Let's get some. She was doing this a lot, and she looked, and her tits looked great, and it was so good to see a sexy hero female character, because
we never get that.
We don't get that anymore because everybody's so sensitive about everything. Everyone's super PC, and so titties are outlawed. There's no titties allowed.
The movie was a little bit making fun of that in the way that they that Deadpool was making fun of Cable and saying he was a racist when he really wasn't.
Oh my God. Cable making, oh my God. Fucking Deadpool continually accusing Cable of being racist was really funny. He's like,
how did that get set up to begin with?
He's like, you killed Black, because he killed Black Tom Cassidy, who's a Scottish guy.
Yeah. An established character in the comics.
You know?
Black Tom. And what Deadpool sets up is saying, hi, I'm White Wade Wilson.
Yeah.
And then goes along, Cable kills Black Tom.
Yeah. And then he's like, you're a racist, you killed Black Tom or something. And like, and it was when, so they're in the cab, and Dopinder, the cabbie, is playing this like Indian music. And then Cable's like, can you turn that off? You know, like turn off this fucking music. And then Deadpool accuses him of wanting to turn the music off because he's a racist. Sure. And he's like, I'm not a fucking racist. Cable's just like, when Deadpool's dying, he's like, yeah, maybe one day, Cable, you'll start judging people by the contents of their character and not by their skin color. And like, Cable's just like, Jesus.
Yes.
Like, just like, ugh.
That was perfect.
But it's really funny because young people do accuse old people of being racist all the time, too. It's like meta in that way, where he's like, not meaning to be racist, but then people take it and accuse someone of being racist. So it's like kind of playing on the idea.
It's a perfect way of playing up, like, that is a sort of a cultural problem we're having right now.
Well, everyone's accusing everyone of being something. It's like whatever you are.
Everyone's been accused of being a racist at this point.
Or it's like it's a crazy. It's a
Josh.
Not yet.
Well, this is your first time on the podcast, so
I've been accused of being racist before.
Josh,
actually.
you're a racist now.
All right.
It's wild times out there, but I loved the way they translated her powers and stuff were really cool, and I really liked her in the role. So I was like, all right, you won me over. Again, it was like the same thing where it's like I didn't like the way Cable looked. I didn't like the way like fucking Domino looked, because they weren't how they looked in the comic books, and I really
such a
like
purist.
these characters.
You want everything to look like the comics.
I mean, and plus
it's done already. Just make them.
Just,
I don't.
yeah,
Please, I'm gonna tear my fucking hair out.
Marvel proves that you can make it look like the comics. Like
Right,
it works. Why
right.
not do it?
Why not
Why
do
are you
it?
not doing this whole time, Fox?
but the thing is
it's done.
The thing is,
it's like talk about getting in your own way. It's done. It's designed
Right.
already.
it's right there.
Somebody already. You don't have to hire.
It's done and
Right.
it's worked for decades.
But it is a lot more makeup and stuff to have an albino character with white skin and a black spot on her eye. Like, that would take a lot more time and money, and you'd have to have an actor who wants to get in the makeup. That's a whole other bag of shit. With this, you don't have to do nearly as much work with just putting a little vitiligo eye and a fucking contact lens in, and then you're good to go. So, I mean, I can see the practical aspects of changing her, but I think goth representation matters. I'm somebody who's pale as fuck, okay? Yeah. Like, I'm pale as fuck. So I like to see other characters who are, like, white and, like, pale as fuck. Like, I love Sheamus, that fucking WWE guy who's like, fuck you, I'm not gonna tan. I'm just gonna be pale as fuck, you know? And it's like, yes, like, there needs to be...
So you think that...
There's
a lot of stuff out there about, like, we need to make sure there's a representation for every type of character, but you're saying goth is underrepresented.
Well, like, super white ass pale people are underrepresented, and if they are represented, they're always creeps. Like, the other pale guy in the movie was like, I mean, he was shot through the head before he was called a pervert.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
She's a little, she's alternative though. She's more like queer alternative. She's not like goth, but you know.
Well, anyway, but we both agree Domino is awesome looking in the comics, and I really...
Yukio was cute.
I love that shot.
Negasonic was cute.
That painting of whoever, I don't know who did it, but there's a really awesome painting of Domino and Wolverine, and they're outside a nightclub, and it's like they're together. And,
they're making out and shit.
Yeah, it's a really great shot.
Yeah, Domino and Wolverine hook up periodically throughout the comic books, but it's always a hit it and quit it thing. It's just like for the night, like they're on some fucked up wet works mission and they're fucking people up and killing people, and then they have sex afterwards, and it's super hot.
Regardless, these are characters that neither one of us ever expected to be in a movie, so it's exciting to see somebody play them. It's exciting to see Shatterstar exist on screen.
I know,
because you never thought anyone would ever do Shatterstar.
And with his dumb head thing on and his big goofy fucking I love his billowy shirt. I always thought that looked so cool.
And they did white. He wears white.
Yeah,
so
he wears white and stuff.
Which would be really, you would really get dirty in a battle.
Oh yeah, totally. No, it's absurd.
But is it disappointing on some level to see it just kind of be done like as a joke?
Yeah, I was sad that Shatterstar was just a joke.
No, yeah. I was bummed out. I was like, oh no, that's it for Shatterstar.
But then at the end of the movie, Deadpool gets like his hands on Cable's time machine, and Negasonic Teenage Warhead fixes it, and so he goes back in time to save everybody from dying, so that all the people on his team don't die.
Does that mean Shatterstar could be alive?
It's not shown that he saves Shatterstar, but it is implied that Shatterstar also lives, so maybe he could come back at some point.
We're number one Shatterstar fans here. Let's hope that Shatterstar... Let's make that happen on the internet somehow.
Yeah. Oh, there's a Domino Colossus hookup. Somebody's saying that Domino and Colossus hookup in Cable and the X-Force. I didn't read Cable and the X-Force because it was like too... it's just like Cable's too heavy for me. And so like I don't really like reading a team where he's in charge, you know? I did hear something about the girl... who plays Domino was saying something about maybe her and Cable could have a romantic thing maybe in the next movie or something, which, I mean, I don't know.
Right, because they're doing X-Force next, right?
I don't know. Are they? I don't know.
I heard that rumor somewhere. I think that's what's going on. I mean, they had...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And they had Deadpool in the end. He gets, like, ash on him, and suddenly he's wearing the gray X-Force, which looks really cool.
Yeah, it did look good.
I love the X-Force costume.
The X-Force wears gray and black. Like, that's like an X-Force thing, a later X-Force thing.
Although I would love to see... This will never happen, but I would love to see Wolverine wearing that gray and black costume.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With the red eyes.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good design.
So good. Yeah, the Rick Remender.
As long as they get somebody that's...
short,
under 6 feet.
Yes,
like enough. I'm tired. I'm tired of like the Hollywood version of Wolverine. I'm tired of it.
We say that as much as we possibly can to try to get it out there.
It's gross.
I know.
It's gross.
I know.
It's gross.
I ain't letting Cable get to him. But I can't do this alone. I need backup.
I loved in this movie that they show like how a villain is made.
Right.
And you see this child and you see that he's just parroting all this gangsta shit as a way to protect himself because he's been in a fucked up situation. He's a mutant. He's been in this fucked up orphanage place where they're torturing him and like doing like really fucked up stuff to him. He gets out, like he's desperately trying to find someone to team up with.
So it's not showing that all adults are good.
No.
You're right.
No.
He is constantly trying to find someone that like is his family.
Like a family, someone that he can link up with, you know, and so he tries to do that with Deadpool, and that at one point Deadpool says, I don't really care about this kid, but he's just saying that to get the kid to run off. But the kid takes it to heart and is like, you don't really care about me.
He's trying to say that to get Cable to not.
But the thing is Cable, you know, like later on in life, like he kills this headmaster. He gets his revenge on the headmaster who was abusing him. And he gets a taste for killing from this first killing. And he goes on to become a mass murderer. And then he eventually kills Cable's family. And so Cable has come back to stop him from killing all these people. And Deadpool argues that he hasn't killed anyone yet. You can't kill him, you know. So they come to an agreement where he's like, okay, Cable's like, I'll give you 30 seconds, you know, before I kill this kid. If you can turn this kid's heart, you know, like, I'll give you 30 seconds. And he was like, okay, I'll take that. Although it was funny because it was after he got ripped in half by Juggernaut and he had these little baby legs that were growing back because he had to grow his legs back. And so they're these little baby legs. And he does this whole, like, Basic Instinct thing where he uncrosses his legs and you kind of see his little baby dick and balls. Like, and it's just like, and Cable's just like, oh, God. And he's not wearing any pants. And it's, like, really horrifying. But they agree to the 30 seconds. And so the whole thing is, like, Deadpool is trying to turn this child and stop him from killing for the first time so that he can stop this child from going down this road of becoming a villain. And you see, though, that, like, this kid, like, he's not a bad seed. He's just been, like, fucked up and abused by adults. And so, like, that's what puts him on this path, which is what actually happens in real life all the time, is, like, you have a lot of kids who are abused when they're younger and they're fucked up by adults. And then that's why they end up going down these really dark paths and becoming these quote unquote villains in the future, and that it is up to adults to notice this, find this, sniff it out, and to protect these children from becoming that by being there for them and giving them a real family and a positive
everyone has a potential of turning out good or bad.
Yeah.
If you can catch them at the right point.
Yeah, if you can catch people at the right point.
Because Cable's just like, I'm just going to kill him.
Yeah.
But Wade C says, I learned nothing from the film, but I laughed my ass off throughout the whole movie, but it's not focused. I mean, I don't agree with that. I think that this is a good movie because under the surface, you're laughing on the surface the entire time, but under the surface, there's a story.
There's real shit.
Yeah.
There's real shit.
And that's what makes a good movie. Like, if it was just gags the entire time, then you're right, it wouldn't be a good movie, and I wouldn't care.
Well, look, I didn't see the movie, but from what you're telling me, the gist of what y'all are saying is that, like, you know, people that commit not necessarily murder or big crimes, but little crimes that end up in jail or whatever, selling drugs or whatever. There's all kinds of things that happen to people that predestine them for that life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the idea that there's some moment that you could interject or like you can get into somebody's life and stop that or cut it off at the pass. I think that's a really important message.
I think so too.
It is.
Totally.
That's some real shit.
I didn't see the movie, but that's what you're telling me what the movie was.
Yes.
So someone that has not seen the movie, that's basically from what I've gathered from what you said is like, that would be the takeaway from the movie.
Yeah.
Totally.
Is that you could get into somebody's life and cut that off at the pass because it's like when you're a kid, you have kind of a black and white view of the world where it's like there's good people and there's bad people and there's people that are in jail and there's people that are not in jail, and it's like, well, why are the people in jail? Well, they must be bad people, and it's like, really, that's not how
true.
It is. It's like there's all kinds of things that happen in people's life that
people do what they have to. To survive. You know what I
mean? So it's like, and really, it's like that's another thing that attracted me to sort of Japanese kind of media and comics and stuff, because it was kind of showing both sides. And not that Western comics didn't do that, but I mean, from what you're saying now, it's like, that's kind of the gist of that movie.
Yeah.
It's like you can kind of
totally a good
insert
story.
yourself into somebody's life at some point and put the brakes on.
Yeah, and it says that, kids give adults... it also says for adults, it's like kids give you a reason to be better than yourself, so it's not only having like a positive message for kids, but it also has a positive message for adults, encouraging them to mentor kids, to like, that they give you the chance to be better than yourself.
And that's
the
truth.
And that's really beautiful. And I really thought that was true.
There's so many ways to get involved.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah. And, and I don't know, I feel like, that's another thing that I feel like you and I become friends on, is because I feel like we both came from a really like fucked up weird thing, growing up. We had all this crazy stuff around us, and we turned out way better than we should have. I feel like...
Actually, that's true. When she tells me stories about her childhood, I'm like, wow, you came out really good.
Right?
Considering all the shit that you went
through. It took like every inch of my willpower and like all the next generation and X-Men fucking lessons I could get, that kept me on the path. I feel like Picard and Xavier really gave me a lot to that I wasn't getting from...
That's why this kind of stuff is so important.
Yeah.
This is why comics is important. Why sci-fi is important.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is what it's for. This is who it's for.
It's for like sad kids who like need some help. They just you need something, because when you're a kid, it's like you might be in this reality that isn't, it's a warped reality, like when you're in these nuclear families and like certain things, I don't know, are going on. It's just crazy.
No, I think what we're talking about is significant in storytelling, because all of us, especially being born in the 80s, all of us, you grow up and you end up consuming so many movies and TV shows and stuff, and the messages that we get as a kid, they are significant to us.
Yeah.
And they do affect like our sense of morality and what we want to do in the world. And so it's important that these movies meant something to us and that they taught us something.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the X-Men were there for me when I needed them. That's why I love them so much. I feel like they were there for me when I needed something.
And that's the point. That's what they're there for. Right?
Yeah.
It's like,
that's what art is there for.
Yeah. And it's like there's a whole... It's like, it's not like creative people aren't the majority, but there's a lot of them, and they're important.
Yeah. And that's
the world runs on images.
It does.
We need creative people to make images.
You need creative people, and
they need to be healthy, and they need to be able to work, and they,
And
artists don't run the world, but they influence the world highly.
Yeah.
They influence the world in unseen ways.
From the shadows.
That's the feed from the computer.